How's it going, Laser Bruce's up, Bobby Sixkilla? Welcome back to the Zodiac Trial. This one's turning into a much longer one with lots and lots of death. We're trying to figure out the murderers still. It looks like they might have taken a knife from the kitchen and killed the shit out of everyone. And so we walked over to Tiger. Hopefully she could provide us some good info on everyone's movements. Hey Mouse, I saw you two investigating over there. How are things going on that front? They're coming along. Great, coming along is the first step in getting to your destination. That's true, probably. Tiger, would you mind if we ask you some questions? Hit me. Where'd you go when you inputted your move? Oh, that? I want to stay as close to the weapons pile as possible, since I was on guard duty and all. So I entered this restroom over here. It's the closest separate room to the cafeteria. That makes sense, I guess. Although, we probably could have just have you input your move at a separate time to everyone else and avoid even having to leave the weapons. Oh, you're right. Man, we're kind of dumb, aren't we? It's a stressful situation, everyone's just kind of panicking. I get a feeling a lot of us have been going about things pretty poorly. You do need a clear head to make good decisions. Trust me, if you get too heated you can really mess things up. So no one went into that restroom? No, I don't think so. What about when we looked for Pig's body? Where did you go then? Oh, I didn't leave. I take my guard duty seriously, you know. I stay by the weapons pile. Oh, you were here the whole time? Yep. Could you tell us where everyone went? My memory's not that great. Plus, I wasn't paying that much attention. I was focused on guarding, you know? That's annoying. Sorry. But you would have seen if someone killed Pig when you were around. Oh, totally. I wasn't blind or anything. I'm just not a genius. If there was anything blatantly suspicious, I definitely would have seen it. Huh. Okay. I think that's it for now. It is? Isn't it? Yeah, we'll talk to you later, Tiger. Alright, keep up the great work. At Sheep's clear request, we walked away from Tiger. When we were far enough away, I started questioning her. You noticed something? Mouse, what Tiger just said doesn't make any sense. It doesn't? If she's telling the truth, Pig wasn't killed when we left to look for it. However, if Rooster was telling the truth, Pig wasn't killed when he came back. But if both things are right, that means Pig was killed right when we were all there. We were in the same room as the crime. I doubt that. I'm pretty sure we would have noticed if a murder was happening in the corner of the room we were in. Even a really silent murder would have made some noise. But you're right. At the very least, we were all accounted for. Almost all of us? What do you mean? We still don't know where Dog is, right? So? You don't think that might mean something? Not really, no. At least not regarding this incident. Oh, okay. Why are you so confident? Just as we were having this conversation, I saw a snake walking down the hallway. Yo, Snake, hold up a minute. He was another good person to interrogate. Do you mind if I ask you some questions? For your little investigation? Yes? I doubt I'll provide much of use, but fine, ask away. That's exactly how a guilty person responds, you know. Oh, what a fascinating observation. Surely you can make that claim as someone who's interviewed countless innocent and guilty suspects alike, no? Your assumption doesn't come from watching a dozen low-rate crime dramas, does it? Look, are you going to cooperate or not? I already said I would. You're the one who has yet to ask me anything. Alright. Then, why don't you tell me which room you went in to input your action for the fourth round? I went down the upper right hallway and entered the closest room, that is, the men's locker room. I then went back down the hallway, and I didn't see Pig's body. I suspect you might doubt that claim, no? Of course I do. The men's locker room. There's a restroom in there, isn't there? Oh, you're also trying to see who visited the restrooms, are you? Then yes, there was a restroom there. I also feel it prudent to inform you that I saw Dragon input her action in the women's locker room down the hall. Also, if you're collecting locations, I believe Monkey was in one of the classrooms between us, providing an awful lot of information there. I just wish to be thorough. So for the sake of thoroughness, where'd you look for Pig? I believe I checked some of the rooms down the right hallway. Nothing turned up. Unpleased with my response? There's not a lot to be happy about with it. Do you think I was going to say I was murdering Pig? Would have been great if you did. I fear for this investigation. Hey, mind your own business. I would very much think the potential apprehension of a killer is my business. If I may, here is a thought that might help out some. Didn't ask, but okay. No matter who the killer is, it is an undeniable fact that killing Pig in that way would be a large risk to them. There's just no way to do that in a way that doesn't require some small leap of faith. Therefore, we should consider why the killer felt the need to take the risk in the first place. They need to kill us so they can stay alive. Duh. They didn't need to kill someone in such a heavily crowded area when the group was splitting up. So what are you saying? Exactly what I said. I should continue to look for minor trinkets. They are our lifeline, after all. If you want to keep interrogating people, I noticed that Ox and Bunny are working as a pair on the other side of the floor. Got it, thanks for the help. A pleasure. Snake walked away, continuing his search. Not a fan of that guy. We got some information from him, though. Nothing useful, I'm afraid. You think? Did you hear anything useful? I guess not. Well, if I didn't hear anything useful, and you didn't hear anything useful, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it wasn't useful. Now, come on. Let's go find Ox and Bunny. Fuck, she's a smart-ass bitch. She's so mean to fucking Sheep. Sheep seems like a nice lady. Why does she have to talk down to her like that? God. We moved to the other end of the school and eventually found Ox and Bunny looking around an art studio. Ox, Bunny. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your movements. Interviewing witnesses, huh? Classic investigative move. Good work. Shut up, Bunny. I hope your search has been fruitful, seeing as you prioritize it over finding trinkets. Oh, come off it, Ox. I was bad at finding trinkets anyway. Besides, if you really cared about figuring out who murdered Pig, the cop and the prosecutor would be doing the investigation, not us. Agreed, because I don't really care about that. I care about finding the minor trinkets. You seem to be really uninterested in this mystery. Almost as if you prefer we didn't find out who the killer is. Mouse, are you honestly calling me a suspect? We're all suspects, Ox. I find it funny how you're so opposed to being called one. Of course I don't want to be suspected. Who would? You're just going to ask me about my movements during the suspected time of the crime, right? Fine then. When we first split up to input our actions, I went down the left hall. Whatever I was about to say got cut off with the devastating sound of a loud bang. That was a gunshot, if ever I heard one. Oh God, please don't let anyone else turn up dead. A gunshot? From where? I think it came from the third floor, maybe. Quickly, we need to see where that came from. Mouse, wait up! Someone else is obviously dead. I didn't. I rushed forward, determined to locate the source of the sound as soon as possible. I had to imagine someone was the recipient of the gun in this case. Depending on where the gun was aimed, the time to find the victim might be the difference between life and death. Up the stairs, up the stairs, up the stairs. I started rushing through the third floor hallways, trying to look for any suspicious looking spots. Eventually I ran across Monkey. Monkey, do you know anything about that gunshot? Maybe where it was fired? Oh, I'm just as surprised as you. I think it came from downstairs though. Downstairs? Yeah, second or first floor. Second then, quickly, let's look. I shall hurry. I don't like her. Monkey sprinted ahead of me, surprisingly quick, in search of the elusive gunshot. I made my way down the other staircase onto the second floor. I started spreading out, trying to find any sign of trouble. Instead, I heard Monkey shouting out for me, calling me over to the crime scene. But of course it was a crime, because of course it was a crime scene. What else could a sound like that lead to? There were no fireworks inside this building. There was really only one option. And sure enough, lying dead on the ground, the body of Dragon was found lying in a classroom's doorway. At this point, I didn't even feel sorrow or panic. Looking at all these deaths had a numbing effect. All I felt was emptiness, a bitter sting for what might have been. Dragon wasn't the easiest to get along with, but something told me she had a really big heart. I liked Dragon. Something told me she would be sorely missed by some. Eventually, Bunny, Sheep, and Ox all made their way to the scene. Evidently, my spirit had caught them all off guard, and none of them were exactly able to keep up. Not again, not another. With the mere sight of the body, Sheep started curling up and turning away. Almost absent-mindedly, she started wandering off down the hallway, unable to take the sight of another corpse. Someone should really have gone after her to make sure she was safe. No one did. Dragon, huh? I thought she might try and confront the butcher, but to end up like this, it's sobering to see. It's expected to see at this point. How many people is this butcher going to take from us? Why don't they show their face? Even though I hadn't realized it, Monkey had also begun to look unwell. Apologies everyone, but I'd very much prefer not to be here. I'll keep looking for trinkets. And like that, she just walked away. Monkey? She was always so calm in our session, so steadfast. Seeing her freak out more than me, it really stopped me in my tracks. Was I becoming too numb to all this? No, focus. Not the time to be thinking about stuff like that. I should make sure she doesn't get in trouble. With this crazy killer, it's probably not safe to go off alone like that. I trust you two to take care of any detective work. Hold up a minute, you don't seriously expect me to let you go like this, do you? Why not? You don't suspect me, right? We were together ever since the start of the 5th round. You're right, but relax, I'll be fine. Without further discussion, Bunny walked away, leaving Ox alone with me. This has well and truly become a total mess at this point. People are all over the place. The deaths are starting to get hard to track. It's not even worth looking over the scene. Why? What? Do you really think there's anything to be solved at this point? We don't even know if this is the work of one culprit. Everyone's alibis and whereabouts are all over the place. There's almost no physical evidence. I just can't see how we're going to be able to find anything to narrow down who did it. If you think like that, you certainly won't. Is that why you didn't bother investigating Pig's murder? I believe there is no mystery humans can't solve if they put their mind to it. Aren't you the optimistic one? No, you're just pessimistic. Now come on, if you have time to complain, you have time to examine the scene. Fine. I guess it's worth noting the dragon's body as the first peculiarity. Dragon's body? I mean, her cause of death. We heard a gunshot, so I expected someone to be shot, but this is another case where the victim was stabbed in the neck. I don't know if it's relevant, but judging by the location of the victim's windpipe, the location the victim's windpipe should have been punctured means the death should have been near instantaneous. They would definitely get blood on the perpetrator, so we can assume that they'd have to wash it off. Again, blood comes up as a pretty big clue determinant. It tends to be in crime investigation. I still don't know what to think of the blood situation with Pig's murder. Yes, someone could wash the blood off themselves, but that would take some time, wouldn't it? I guess Dog did it then, he has no alibi. Are you sure that doesn't sit well with me? Then it must have been a suicide. Now you're just being ridiculous on purpose. Is it so ridiculous? For Dragon? Yes. There was no knife by the scene. Well then, where does that leave us? I don't know. That's what we have to figure out. What a joy. Why did you become a fucking lawyer anyway then, if you don't like figuring out mysteries? I moved in to examine the cut to the dragon's throat. It was definitely a knife cut. Didn't seem too clean though, the killer definitely struggled with the slashing motion. This is probably made by the butcher's knife, right? Probably. There on the ground, there's a bullet shot right by Dragon's head. But not through it. Indeed. Perhaps we can take this as some sort of warning shot? Say the killer pushed Dragon to the ground and was holding a gun at her. Dragon made some sort of move, the killer fired right at the side of her head. Then for some reason the killer decided to cut things short with a knife. When you put it like that, it almost sounds as if the killer was interrogating Dragon, trying to get information out of him. But what could that be? Who knows? I pushed the door fully open with a shove, and I noticed what looked like water drip down. Drip down? Didn't make much sense to me at first, but then I realized where it came from. I got on my tippy toes and pressed my hand to the top of the door. Sure enough, the very top of the door seemed to be wet? Wet? Yeah, wet. Huh. I have no idea what that could mean. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe. But seeing how water tends to evaporate, I don't think that's the case. Then how on earth is it relevant? I don't know, it just is, probably. I'm not convinced. Good for you. Any other bright observations you want to dismiss? Are there? Let's see. Okay, this could be nothing, but this isn't an arts and crafts classroom, right? Right. Then why is there a bundle of string over there? Where? There, right between the tape dispenser and the pencil sharpener. Oh, I see it now. I don't know. It could be used for weird math measurements, maybe some student's project. I think you're the one reaching for straws now. I guess. If we're done with the investigation, we should get out of here. Standing in a room with a dead person is giving me the creeps. Agreed. Come. We can have a discussion in the hallway. I feel like we don't know anything more than we did when we started this thing. I think you're supposed to be the optimist. I'm the realist. And I really think we're boned. I agree. At this point, it might just be most effective to find enough trinkets to stay as a group. So that's it? We just give up on thinking? It was your suggestion. I know, it's a bad one. We can't give up the butcher's identity. When we put together all the clues, it's going to give us an answer. Oh, then enlighten me. Who should we be afraid of? Let's look at this logically. Horse was shot at the beginning of the game. Pig was choked to death some point after we split up to input our moves for the 4th round. Dragon was then stabbed sometime after that. You and Bunny have been together ever since the group got back together, so there's no possible way either of you could have killed Dragon. And of course, I'm not the killer. And if we trust Brian, then there should only be 12 people in this building. Given all the available suspects, all the clues found at the relevant crime scenes, the alibis of the people involved, and the motivation behind the piece of evidence, I think there's only one person that fits the Butcher's MO. That would be... Okay, I have to save again. Because I imagine there's a whole bunch of outcomes again. Well, they already said... It can't be snake or sheep, because they wouldn't have the physical strength to strangle Pig to death, right? As far as we're already concerned, Dog is dead in that closet. Tiger's been guarding the thingamajigs, right? So it has to be Rooster. Like, it has to... Rooster. Fingers crossed. That moron? He's clearly a devilish mastermind. I think this is just because you don't like him. Hold on a minute, hear me out. We don't know where he was during Dragon's murder. Sheep was with us when the gun rang out. I ran into Monkey on the 3rd floor. Shortly afterwards, we saw Snake on the 1st floor, not long before that. Rooster's location was completely unknown, and he was the first to recuse himself from the group. Okay, but that's not enough to say for sure that he's the killer. We don't know anything about Dog's alibi, right? And as for Monkey and Snake, they could have just run fast to try and fool you. The fact that you saw them in a different place at a different time doesn't mean anything. That's... Plus, when could he have killed Horse? He was with your group when you were back in the cafeteria, right? And even though he advocated to go searching for Horse, he never left the safe zone until far after we found Horse's body. You're right, sorry, I guess I didn't think through that one. I'm going to try and gather everyone again at the cafeteria. Might be a fruitless effort, but I've got to at least try. Care to join me? I think I just want to sit down and think about things for a bit. Go on ahead without me. Suit yourself. So there's a Dog then. I sat down to mull over all the evidence. It just wasn't adding up in my head. Over and over again, I kept going back to one piece of evidence that stood out to me. The water on top of the door. What possible use could that have? I couldn't answer that. Then I heard footsteps approaching. I tensed up. But then I relaxed. There wasn't anyone to be scared of. Oh, it's you. Oh my god, we're about to die. You know, you shouldn't be wandering around the school alone at this point. This has become really dangerous. It was as I said this, when I saw the knife be pulled out. Oh. It suddenly clicked with me. I realized what had happened. I realized how dumb I'd been. I could have tried to run away, to resist, but I was frozen by the stunning realization of the Butcher's true identity. That I'd just let my throat be slashed across, blood flying everywhere. Blood flying onto the killer's face. Blood on the floor. Blood was all I could see. Then I couldn't... After the one who inherited the Butcher's knife kills enough secretly, Mouse will be compelled to solve the murders. However, if she is not able to identify who the culprit is in time, the Butcher is likely to make her a target sooner rather than later. This level of reasoning may be beyond Mouse's capabilities, but let's try and see what lies beyond here, shall we? Alright, let's load back into here and pick a different person. Dog's obviously the next choice, right? But then she said, oh, you're not someone to be scared of. Sheep? Let's try sheep. Yeah. Now I'm thinking about it. It's gotta be sheep. It's unbelievable, I know, but I don't know why she'd do it, but she's our Butcher. Why? I'll explain everything in a minute, but first I want to meet up with Sheep. Let's try and find her, and then I'll settle everything once and for all. Okay, if you say so. I trust you. We walked through the school looking for Sheep. Eventually we ran across Monkey, who offered to join us. We accepted. Seeing as we were about to confront the killer, I didn't mind the extra backup. As I looked for her, I couldn't help but despair. I didn't know Sheep, sure, but she seemed so meek, so nice. I didn't think she could hurt a fly. So then, how? So how then could she go on a killing spree like this? I needed to know. Eventually we found her curled up in a classroom on the 1st floor. Mouse? Ox? Monkey? What are you all doing here? Sheep. I don't want to waste time on or play games. This is a dead serious matter. One I just don't have it in me to joke about. Why'd you kill Dragon? Kill Pig? Kill Horse? Please tell me. Mouse? What are you talking about? I could never. You're not going to fool me, Sheep. I suggest you just confess now. Confess to what? Mouse, I don't know what you're talking about. It's gonna have to be like this then, is it? Very well. I'll make you confess. And then I'll make you explain yourself. Make me confess? You're gonna torture me? Please, I'm innocent, I swear. I'm not gonna torture you, sheep. Though maybe this will be like torture to you if you still have a conscience. No, I'm gonna prove why you have to be the killer. Go ahead, I'd love to hear your reasoning. Very well then, let's start with the matter of Horse's death. While I can't prove anything, there's one element that we haven't paid attention to that keenly points the suspicion in your direction. And what would that be? What points to Sheep's guilt? Alright, we're gonna have to keep saving. Apologies. Oh, that was a quick save, my bad. We're gonna end up with a lot of save slots here. A lot. What points to Sheep's guilt? What did she say in the cafeteria? I don't even remember. Can we go back over that? Oh my god, that was a while ago though. I don't know, we're gonna have to wing it. What Sheep said in the cafeteria, let's go with that. What did I say? You don't remember? No? You said, and I quote, I just killed Horse. I didn't say that. Oh, didn't you? No. In a metaphorical sense though. I didn't say anything like that. Shit, I really thought that was gonna work. Seriously, Mouse? Mouse, you didn't really think it was me, right? That's why you're struggling to think clearly, because in your heart you recognize I would never do something as horrible as murder. She slowly started to approach me. I should have been worried, but she was so pitiful, so desperate, so sad I wasn't thinking straight. And then she stabbed you. Could she really be the culprit? Sure, it made sense to me, but I was just an amateur, was I wrong? Mouse, please, think things through. I thought we were, well, we could be friends. We can still be friends, right? That's... Just as I started to respond, Sheep lunged forwards at me. She hugged me. She hugged me with one hand, stabbed me through my chest with the other. I couldn't see it, but I could guess, before I even knew what was happening. The hand that had stabbed me went to her pocket, and she pulled out a gun. Using me as cover, she shot at Ox and Monkey in quick succession. I heard two shouts. Two bodies hit the floor. I couldn't tell what happened, but it couldn't have been pretty. With a weak shove, I lost balance and fell to the floor. The pain from the stabbing was severe, but peanuts to the pain I felt when she pulled the knife out of my chest. Gotta make sure. She walked over behind my line of sight. My muddled and pain-racked brain couldn't tell for what purpose at first, but when I heard Ox howl and the sound of metal entering flesh, I then heard Sheep walking over to the other side of the room. Whatever Monkey was doing to fight back wasn't enough. The sound alone put the image of a clean, brutal slash in my mind. Then Sheep walked back into my field of vision. Sorry. You... Don't blame me. In an instant, Sheep bent down and slashed at me, but this horizontal swipe wasn't aimed at my throat. This one was aimed at my eyes. I died blind, but able to see things how they truly were for the first time. If Mouse confronts Sheep with their sins, Sheep will try to appeal Mouse, to say it couldn't be her. Mouse will need to be ironclad in her will, backed up with some solid reasoning. For if she falters for but a moment, Sheep will use that hesitation as an opportunity to strike. This is the mark of the butcher. Cool. I had a feeling I was going to die there. But anyway, let's, when you arrived at the cafeteria? What does that have to do with anything? It has a lot to do with things, actually. Because when you look at it, not a lot of people could have killed Horse. Tiger was guarding weapons, Ox and Snake returned very quickly, and Pig and Rooster were with me the whole time. Also, Dragon and Bunny arrived together. While that doesn't mean that they were necessarily together all the time, before that, it certainly makes it less likely either had the time to kill Horse. You, however, arrived on your own, after quite a bit of time. That's very suspicious timing, I have to say. Doesn't prove anything. No, I think it was a pretty big indicator. If we'd given it any amount of thought at the time, we would have concluded that the main suspect should have been you, Monkey, and Dog. But fine. You won't take that as evidence, fair enough. Let's move on to Pig's death. When was Pig killed? Well, people were inputting their actions for the 4th round. You killed Pig when everyone left to input actions for the 4th round. In fact, you'd already input your action, didn't you? I did. Yeah, you did. I thought it was strange how no one I talked to saw whether you or Pig went to where you or Pig went to input your actions. That's because neither of you actually left the cafeteria. Isn't that right? As everyone started to walk away, you called her over into the kitchen, saying you had something important to say to her. That's where you killed her. But Mouse, her body was found behind that pillar. Yeah, but there was no blood on the floor behind that pillar, despite the knife clearly spilling a lot of blood. She was actually stabbed in the kitchen, and you just wiped away the blood there. Isn't that right? But as you said, the killer would have gotten a bunch of blood on themselves. I don't have any blood on me, and I never had a chance to clean up in the restroom. There wasn't enough time, and other people were occupying the main ones. I said blood would spill out. I didn't say that the blood would get on the killer. What are you talking about, Mouse? There's actually a way to stab someone to death without getting any blood on you. Before luring Pig over to the kitchen, you already had the necessary tools in your pocket. A kitchen knife, which is the actual murder weapon, a bunch of napkins to wipe away the blood, and a handful of plastic baggies. Plastic baggies? The same plastic baggies found in that very kitchen. You told Pig to look at something, maybe to bend down. Then you quickly stuffed both your hands into the plastic baggies, turned them into makeshift gloves. From behind that, you brought the knife around Pig's body, and with both hands you violently pushed inward, fatally stabbing her. As she cried out, you moved both of your covered hands over to her mouth to silence her. You were sure to get a lot of blood on your clothes, but it would only spill onto your hands, which had been covered by plastic bags. Then you put both plastic bags on your hands and the knife into the third plastic bag and begin quickly wiping away the blood with napkins. When you wiped away enough to hide the crime scene at a glance, you put the bloody napkins in the bag and hid the bag of evidence in your pocket. With that taken care of, you promptly exited the kitchen like nothing happened. If you were efficient, this whole thing would have taken less than 2 minutes. Mouse, that's totally ridiculous. I thought you said Pig was strangled to death. I couldn't do that. No, Sheep. That's just what you wanted me to think. In truth, you just choked her neck after she was dead, didn't you? Mouth. That's possibly plausible, if incredibly risky, but if I understand correctly, a core mystery was how the body ended up behind a certain pillar, correct? I do not believe this explanation accounts for that. I haven't, because Sheep wasn't done taking risks. You see, we were quite scattered throughout the cafeteria when the 4th round result began to be displayed, but those results drew everyone's attention to one place. Sheep, who had been sitting in the back of the cafeteria, was able to take advantage of this distraction. She quickly and quietly walked over to the kitchen and simply dragged Pig's body from behind the kitchen door to behind the pillar. There's no way I could do all of that. Oh, but you could. It's possible, I grant you, but it's incredibly risky. Why would Sheep go through all that trouble? Murder's a risky business, Ox. There's always a chance things could go wrong. Sheep smartly realized that if people kept dying, there'd be some who wanted to investigate things. And she also realized that if we stopped for a second to think about Horse's murder, she'd already be under incredible scrutiny due to the fact that she was one of the few people without an alibi. And in fact, I'm willing to bet, if we dug even deeper into that, there'd have been some damning evidence which proved it was her. Her only chance to get out of this was to cause a murder so confusing that our attention could be diverted. And a murder this confusing would sow chaos, giving her more opportunities to attack us one by one. Ugh, so what? Mouse, you've just been bullying me this whole time without any evidence. Where's your evidence? Show me some evidence. Getting there. Really? Then how about we get to the dragon's murder, huh? How are you going to explain that? Because I was with you the whole time that happened. Not entirely true. When Mouse rushed off, we chased behind her. However, we were far from a unified front. Now that I think about it, I don't think I saw you for a while there. You could easily have slipped away to commit murder. Maybe, but I wouldn't have had nearly enough time to wash the blood off myself, right? Plus, Mouse only started running because the real killer had just fired a pistol at Dragon. You're half right, Sheep. You wouldn't have had enough time to wash the blood off. That's because you didn't need to, because you employed a very nasty trick with this murder. The truth of the matter is, no, there's no way Sheep had Dragon commit suicide. The gun was made to fire on its own. It's gotta be that. Made to fire on its own? That's not possible. What are you talking about? It actually is. In fact, it requires a very simple tool. Also I found in the cafeteria. A tool I found at the scene of the crime. Mouse, what are you talking about? We didn't find anything at the scene of the crime. We found something, alright. Water. Or should I say ice? Ice? Ice. The contraption was simple. Using the string we found in the classroom, the tape dispenser, some ice, and a gun, it wouldn't be difficult to make a contraption where the gun would fire on its own after an unknown amount of time. Simply wrap up one end of the string around the gun's trigger, and then tape the other end to the door frame. Set the gun precariously on top of the door using ice as a platform. If you put it in the right place as the ice melts, the gun would be liable to fall down, causing the string to pull the trigger and the gun to fire wildly. With that sort of thing, there'd be absolutely no control over where the gun fired. True, but she probably felt that she could work with whatever result. She set Dragon's body up in some way where it's plausible the shot could have been aimed at her. But then, how could she know where Dragon would be? She knew because Dragon was already dead. What? Dragon was actually killed as early as when we were looking for Pig. Remember, no one saw her since. I imagine she'd convinced Dragon to go along with her in the search. Dragon came across as crass, but I think she was the type to protect someone like Sheep. Then, when they got to the classroom, Sheep stabbed Dragon from behind with the knife. Hold on a minute, if that happened, blood would get everywhere. Normally, yes. However, remember the cause of death at this time. It was a cut windpipe, not blood loss, meaning the knife didn't actually have to be removed from the wound right away. Most blood comes out when the weapon is pulled from the body, so whatever blood specks did appear were likely minimal. She dragged Dragon's body inside the classroom and prayed that no one would bother checking that room. Then she set up her gun ploy and left. That's probably around the time when I found Dragon's body. No. Quit it, enough. Give me real evidence. She couldn't have been sure where the gun would fire, so she decided to make sure she had an alibi no matter what. She volunteered to help me with the investigation of Pig's death, then eventually the gun fired. There was one trick to Sheep's plan. She needed to be the first to find the body. That's why she implemented a double layer of subterfuge. She said, I think it came from the 3rd floor. Since we were in the panic, we took that guess as gospel truth and made our way to that. Except you didn't, did you? You ran over, yanked the gun and strung away, dragged Dragon to a suitable location near where the gun was fired and pulled the knife out. All in all, you were efficient about it. This cleanup could last as quick as a minute, maybe even quicker. Good thing you moved fast, I'm guessing. Just as you exited one hallway, Monkey was running toward the body from the other. No evidence, not real evidence. That could be anybody. But would anybody stand to gain from such a setup, seeing as there was no other reasonable explanation for why the top of the door would be wet like that? I'm confident in my theory on how the gun was fired. And Sheep, you were the only one who benefited from an alibi at the time the shot went off. Well, I guess Ox, Bunny, and I did as well, but we all can't be the culprit. So how about it, Sheep? Who else could it be but you? How do you know the gun was fired to gain an alibi, huh? You can't prove that, can you? I can. What proves Mouse's theory? Horse's death. In the case of Horse's death, we didn't hear the gunshot. Why? I'm guessing this pistol had a silencer on it. That's the only explanation. In that case, why wasn't the silencer on in this case? I can only imagine it was to make sure people heard the shot. You're not... No proof, no evidence. Oh, you still deny it? What could possibly make you confess at this point? Evidence. Before I could respond, Sheep started to move. She started to pull something out of her pocket. But at this point I was expecting it. I moved gracefully towards her, and just as she pulled out the gun, I grabbed that hand and pushed it away. Since I had closed the distance, I used that momentum to knee her right in the stomach. Sheep fell to the ground, but that didn't stop her. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a dagger. But at this point, I'd already grabbed the pistol, which had fallen to the floor, and aimed at her. As for evidence, I figured that you probably still had the gun on you after you collected it from the scene of Dragon's death. Of course, if you were really smart, you might have just hid it somewhere nearby. If you'd let me search you, and I hadn't found it, I probably would have started to question if I was right. But now, it's over, Sheep. Just admit it. I'm not. Quit looking at me like that. It's not my fault. It's not my... I just wanted to survive. Please, please, stop it. Cut it out. From there, she burst into tears. No one in the room felt any pity for her. How could we? After all, she'd killed 4 people in the span of a single day. All we did was wait for her to compose herself, to explain herself, to talk about why she'd done what she did. I thought splitting up to look for the trinkets was dangerous. I wanted a better idea, where there wasn't any chance for things to go wrong. But then I realized we didn't need to look for minor trinkets, we could use the ones we had. If we just used all our abilities in the right order, everyone could make it to the finish line with no one person being able to get far ahead of the group. We could stick together in one room, with Tiger as the guard, and take turns in putting our designated move. But I realized that the math didn't quite work. There were too many people whose abilities didn't move fast enough. And then I remembered. I had the sheep's clothing. We'd found it, Mouse. What did the sheep's clothing have to do with anything? If I had Horse's ability, things would work out. So I didn't think much about it. I just acted without consulting the group. I used it and became a copy of Horse. But then not only had my action changed, but so did my personality. I was now a copy of Horse. I had the determined personality. What? I realized this in the same room where I'd found a hidden pistol. I was freaking out, but then the announcement played on the pad. A butcher's knife? Was it Horse? I walked out of my room and I saw Horse standing there. He was holding it. He was looking at me and I panicked and then, before I knew it, I just fired. I killed him. I tried to hide it, but Dog came across the scene and there was an argument. Sheep started to mumble. She wasn't meeting any of our eyes. We could finish the story for ourselves. Dog, the unseen victim. If I didn't do something, everyone would blame me for those murders. But if I was the only witness, I'm pathetic. Sheep, so really this was just one big accident? Don't give her that much credit. In the end, she just chose to put her life above ours, and in so committed murder. It's sad, but it's not an excuse. Then you think she should have simply accepted her fate? Accept death? Not many have that conviction. She did accept death. The deaths of every single other person in this school. Don't get me wrong, I can see where she's coming from in all this, but I have trouble sympathizing. I do sympathize with her, I really do, but Sheep, even in that situation, what you did was wrong. She didn't speak after that. None of us did. Sheep didn't even try to escape. She probably knew it was pointless. Eventually, Snake wandered into the room. We explained the situation to him. He accepted it pretty easily. Bunny too after some time passed. He found us and joined us in the wait. We input our actions for the 5th round, going one at a time. The group was talking about what to do next, but Sheep just sat silently. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, Sheep began to talk. I didn't used to stay to myself. You wouldn't think it, but I was actually a rebel when I was younger. A real troublemaker. Had a number of friends. I thought it was cool how I had a really bad reputation in my neighborhood. Mostly I just wanted to emulate my 2 older sisters. What? What are you talking about all of a sudden? I kinda hated them, because they were often mean to me, and they used to blame me for everything. But they were cool, so I wanted to be like them. Then one day my parents left me in charge. Let me look after my younger brother. I was such a good kid. That's why I disliked him. In fact, I hated him. But I never wanted... I thought he was smart enough that he didn't need me looking over him. I even let him take a bath by himself. Then my older sister called. I don't know why, just to tease me, I guess. They were really annoying, and we got into a heated argument. I completely wasn't paying attention, and then I heard a thud. I don't know what went through Smith's smart brain that made him think running right after getting out of the bathtub was a good idea. I don't know what made him run. I guess I'll never know, but I can guess it was probably because he was still a little kid. Because I was supposed to look after him, and I didn't. It's his fault that he ran. It's my fault that I didn't watch. It's my parents' fault for trusting me. And it's no one's fault that the slip ended up being at just the right angle to have him fall down the stairs and have him twist his neck like that. The funeral was soon after. Sheep. You know the first thing I tried to do? Blame it on my older sisters. Well, that was only natural, after all. The first thing they did was try to blame it on me. But my mum wasn't hearing any of it. She wasn't hearing anything. She was onset by 2 fronts. On the other hand, the grief of her losing her only son was wrecking her mind. On the other, she had to deal with a thunderstorm of rumours. Those rumours of the accident, of how this troubled, disturbed kid was the only one around when the brother she hated slipped to his death. The atmosphere of the neighbourhood around me took a serious turn. At best, I'd let my brother die. At worst, I'd made him die. It was horrible. I was in middle school at the time. From there I turned my behaviour around. I became an honest student, the cleanest of the clean, determined to live a virtuous life, determined not to give any credence to the rumours which haunted and corrupted my parents. It didn't help much. When the news made its way to my school, life became hellish. Kids like to believe the more fun versions of the stories. It was more fun if I'd killed him. And the worst bullies were the ones who think their victims deserve it. Come college time, I couldn't move far enough. My whole life I'd been sure to never give people a reason to blame me. My father moved on. My mother never truly recovered from her son's death. She still doesn't know what to think of it. If I ever gave her a reason to believe I might have, she'd sooner die than believe that. That's my sin, isn't it, Brian? Brian? After Mr. Bowen was killed in that awful, terrible murder, I was one of the first suspects. Of course I was, after all. I was his secretary. I was there at the time of the murder. I was the one who'd found the collapsed security guard, the one who called the cops. I was the one with the biggest holes in my alibi, the one with all the keys, the one who knew him best. Eventually my innocence was proven, but before that I was deathly afraid I might be labelled a murderer in all of this. If even that rumour got back. So when the cops asked me about Mr. Morris, told me that they were looking to make the case against him, I threw him as far under the bus as I could. Anything that he might have known about he knew about. Any grudge he might have had against Mr. Bowen, he had it. Any character flaws that he might have possessed, he had that and more. I believe that it was largely my depiction of him which made the cops so sure that they had the right man. And that's why you put me through all this, isn't it, Brian? Unexpectedly, a voice came across on the speakers. So you admit that you slandered my father, defiled his name, handed the police the noose. I didn't lie about a single thing in my testimony about those events, and your father wasn't a perfect angel. I only exaggerated, never created. And Brian, though you hate to admit it, it is clear that your father was in fact the person who killed Mr. Bowen. The evidence is overwhelming. But yes, I admit it, I'm responsible for getting him executed, and for that I'm sorry. I'll never forget October 11th, the day all this started, when you think about it. We all waited a while for the Jade Emperor's response. None came. Instead, after a time, Sheep made a request. Mouse, can you kill me? What? I want you to kill me, right here, right now. Why? I know what's bound to happen. It'll be an execution. And the way Brian described it, it sounds awfully slow and painful. I'm a coward, Mouse. I don't want that. But we don't know that for sure. Maybe there's a way for you to survive. There isn't. She shouldn't get to survive anyway. She's killed 4 fucking people. I feel like I've been controlled by the past all my life. Now I feel nothing. Just end it. It's not... Even if you messed up, you don't deserve to die. Don't deserve to die. I'm pretty sure a serial murder of 4 is worth the death penalty in most states. If this were taken to court, I doubt it. The circumstances are bizarre, but there are plenty of mitigating factors. At the very least, I'd imagine you get life in prison before a death penalty. I know I'm being selfish here, Mouse, but please. Let me go peacefully. 1 gunshot to the head is all it takes. I looked at the others, hoping for input. I think we can all use a little forgiveness, right? If she wants to be shot, let her be shot. True, however, this raises an interesting moral quandary. Even if she will die anyway, to shoot her would kill her yourself. That can be psychologically damaging. Morally, I'd say it's on par with assisted euthanasia. Honestly, I don't think it matters much one way or the other, though that may be a cold reading of the situation. Oh my god, I don't want to do that. Yuck. I mean, she doesn't deserve to live, in my opinion, but, I don't want to do it myself. Yuck. No. I see. Then I'll do it. No one deserves that execution the Jade Emperor was talking about. No one's shooting her. I don't care what the speaker says, that's murder. I guess you really hated me in the end, Mouse. I guess it's fair. Then leave. I didn't dare meet her eyes. I just exited the room and the group followed. No one entered that room for the rest of the race. Sheep stayed there. Though, lying there, empty. She waited for her inevitable end. Everyone gathered in the cafeteria. Rooster finally found the group. Apparently, he'd been obliviously searching for trinkets this whole time, and found a few. And that didn't really matter anymore. We used the trinkets and moved as a group. At one point, Tiger left the group. She didn't explain herself, but no one felt like following her. We know why she took her leave. She must have wanted her final moments to herself. We had to respect that. Eventually all the survivors crossed the line together, and the Jade Emperor announced our victory. He also announced the defeat of Sheep and Tiger. 2 collars activating throughout the building. It was a very silent experience. I don't know if a cumulative 100 words passed amongst the group since leaving Sheep's room. But at least we were alive, right? That had to count for something. In the end, myself, Ox, Bunny, Snake, Monkey, and Rooster escaped. Half survived. But half died, for very poor reasons. It all felt empty. I guess that was the Jade Emperor's goal. Well then, good work, Brian. You dick. 9 of spades. If nothing is found in the first 3 rounds, but the sheep pad, trinkets, and weapons, Horse will be assigned the role that forces him to act. What? I'm going to write this down. What? Sheep pads, trinkets, and weapons. Horse will be assigned a role that forces him to act. Okay. Furthermore, if Sheep does not trust the group, she will go on her own and come up with a plan. Without telling anyone else, she will enact her plan, and that will lead to ruin. It is highly unlikely Sheep will be able to win as a traitor. However, she is prone to rash judgments and risky play. Very unpredictable. From the start, this line of action may be too unreliable. Alright, we're going to wrap this one up here. And the next one, I guess we'll come back and shoot her, I suppose. And then we'll have to go back a bit to try and figure out where we need to start from next time. But yeah, until then, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.